You know, no matter how things turn out, there will always be someone by your side, right? No need to feel disappointed. No need to worry. Just do your best, even if you feel pressured. You still have your own worth because he's always been there to support me. I have nothing to regret. I've experienced disappointment and lost my direction in life since the day I woke up. I woke up in a cramped and dirty apartment. That was the day I decided to end that stagnant life. I signed up to be a hunter to get allowance money, but they all said I wasn't cut out for the job. Life didn't change after waking up. It was still stagnant, still drowning in debt. The future remained bleak, while others had beautiful lives. I was never the protagonist, living a lonely life with no one by my side and nothing in hand. Besides breathing, I didn't know what else to do. My miserable life was only prolonged by waking up, but living on didn't seem to have any meaning. But just when I was on the brink of despair, you appeared in my life. That was my destiny day. At first, I doubted myself, feeling unworthy of those good things. I was both scared and grateful, even under pressure. But I'm not like you. I couldn't do anything. I could never become a leader or a hero. Even if I spent all day in night training, I couldn't imagine having a cool skill like you. But when I met that girl, heard her desperate words, I realized I was wrong. That's when I realized, from the beginning, you never looked down on me. You never saw me as lesser. You never forced me into a fight I wasn't suited for. You just made me believe I could do what I liked. That's why I could wholeheartedly focus on my strengths. All this time, you've been cheering me on, believing in me even when I couldn't believe in myself. That's why I don't feel afraid anymore. I think I found my path forward. I want to become even stronger, not like you or Yim, but I'll try my best in my own way. 99.97, 99.98, 99.99, 10,000. Your faith in me. I want to show you it's worth it. Notification system. Congratulations, you've obtained the SS rank skill, Master of the Goldsmith's Forge, through your relentless effort and perseverance. Finally, success has been achieved. The next day, within Abyss production workshop, there was a commotion. A female worker pointed frantically to where the magic crystal had been placed, now missing. The mana crystal was here just now. Someone must have stolen it during midnight. A senior worker and a young colleague remained calm. Oh, you haven't heard yet. It will be in the news soon. It has found its owner elsewhere. Meanwhile, Yim was training with the girl, holding a weapon that looked extremely cool. It was the SS-ranked weapon, Family Ice Blade, made by Myung-Yu himself. As soon as it came out of the forge, it was handed to Yim for testing. Her target was the pond in front of her. Yim eagerly anticipated its power. A burst of ice energy shot out, freezing the pond almost instantly. And even more surprising than the power of the blade was the enhancement it brought to Yim's skills, elevating her to a new level of strength. These scenes were captured by Abyss, documenting Yim's trial. Currently, they were introducing the weapon to the media as the 16th SS-grade weapon in Korea. It wasn't acquired from dungeons. It was crafted by human hands. The Hunters Association certified Myung-Yu as the craftsman. A journalist asked if he could create the highest grade items. The media was directly answered by Myung-Yu himself. At this point, Myung-Yu no longer had the appearance of a miserable, lifeless person. He was handsome, confident, and charismatic. He had become the center of the world with his SS-ranked forging skill. Yu-Jin was also present, looking at Myung-Yu with great satisfaction and joy for his achievements. Myung-Yu now exuded a confident and robust aura. Yu-Jin informed Song-han that after creating the item, Myung-Yu's stats had also increased. Myung-Yu's awakening level had probably reached level C by now. Yu-Jin was truly delighted that Myung-Yu had undergone a complete transformation. Remembering the time when Myung-Yu had just awakened, returned to the dorm with an SS-ranked weapon in hand, Yu-Jin couldn't believe it. As soon as he woke up, Myung-Yu created an SS-ranked weapon. Myung-Yu also mentioned that he had received a huge bag of materials. Myung-Yu reached out, revealing a bag of high-grade materials used to craft weapons, an item bag containing S and SS-grade materials. These appeared along with Myung-Yu's skills, indicating he had used the ice branch in the materials bag and the magic crystal in the equipment room to create this blade. Not only that, Myung-Yu also received a comprehensive encyclopedia on crafting. So the crafting work became even easier. Myung-yu also invited Yuen to visit his forge. It turns out that the name Golden Smithy is not just a name of a skill, but it is a real forge. Myung-yu reached out and opened a spatial gate, then turned back to Yuen and extended his hand invitingly, saying, "Take my hand, I can lead others there." Yuen continuously walked through from one surprise to another. He couldn't believe that he could contribute to someone achieving such great skills. Stepping into its inner space made Yuen amazed. It was even more vast and magnificent than he imagined. Yuen was curious about a furnace placed in the center. The forge didn't need raw materials, but it burned fiercely. Before Myung-yu could explain, the flames surged up. It manifested as a fire elemental creature, frightening Yuen. Yuen quickly retreated, unsure if it would turn into a human. Myung-yu informed him that it was the fire element. Not only that, it could also speak. "Greetings, Master. I am the fire element. I was born from the final breath of the craftsman." Yuen was surprised. He could see the element existing outside of the world. Myung-yu said it had helped him craft weapons. Myung-yu also informed Yuen that its previous owner had prepared everything so that Yuen could learn the basics of crafting. Yuen was also surprised and asked if there were other hunters with crafting skills. He thought Myung-yu was the first. Myung-yu replied that he didn't know, and this was all they left behind, accompanied by a flower wreath and a card with somewhat unusual characters. But Myung-yu could understand them a little. "Welcome, my successor. Perhaps the blessings of crimson and molten metal have come to you. Occasionally, traces of civilization are found in dungeons. Remnants are similar to our world, but houses and castles are completely different. Therefore, it is hypothesized that there exists another civilization in another world. Perhaps the owner of this forge also came from another world, and we think they left all this for the successor to learn crafting skills." While thinking about the awakening system, Myung-yu spoke up. "Take it. It's yours. Thanks to you, I can do this too. I will make the equipment you want. If you want to go out alone, I will go with you. But if you want to stay in Abyss, I will stay too." Myung-yu sincerely expressed to Yuen that he would follow him wherever he wanted. The plan was successful. Both An and Myung-yu unconditionally followed Yuen. The main job now was to sit on the sofa and count money. However, contrary to the dark thoughts in Yuen's mind, Myung-yu solemnly said, "You don't have to do that, Yuen." Myung-yu was surprised, not understanding Yuen's intentions. He didn't know whether it was due to a guilty conscience or what made Yuen change his mind completely from his original intention. Yuen straightforwardly told Myung-yu, "You don't have to worry about me." Yuen scratched his head, showing a bit of embarrassment. "There's something I've always hidden from you. We really don't know anything about each other yet. Maybe you misunderstood me. In fact, we only met at the Hunters Guild not long ago." Yuen was indeed an underground thinker, but he was actually very good. Seeing Myung-yu develop like this made him happy. Yuen didn't want to confine Myung-yu but wanted him to develop freely. He continuously explained to Myung-yu that he didn't need to worry about him anymore. "Just do what you want. I seem to understand something," he said. "Yuen, did you say this skill is very powerful, even more influential than a guild? In that case, there's no need to think about it anymore. Let's not bother anymore. Just let me give it to you, because if it stays here, it will burn out and I will lose you. Don't worry, I'm just doing what I want to do, as you said. I won't worry about you anymore, and I'll just do what I intend to do." Returning to reality with a grandiose spectacle, Myung-yu presented a family S-grade weapon, the Frostblade, to Yuen, the Guildmaster of Abyss. Everyone was excited, but Yuen seemed a bit restless. At this point, Yuen was still regretful. He didn't know why he had to give up his retirement fund, but it was good. Thanks to Myung-yu's radiance, he would now attract less attention, and life would be much easier. Yuen said to Som Han with a hint of regret in his words, "Myung-yu has really done it. I don't need to worry about him anymore. Now, no matter where he goes, he'll be welcomed." Now, Myung-yu was the only craftsman with equipment in the world. All guilds and hunters would have to line up to find him soon. So there's no need for Myung-yu to stay by my side anymore. He should go somewhere better. Han, despite being a muscular guy, also noticed that Yuen seemed unnatural, looking a bit sad. Who wouldn't recognize such a face? Below the stage, Yuen, looking as bright as a flower, expressed his thought. "Thank you, Myung-yu, this is the perfect weapon for me. I sincerely appreciate it, and while I'm at it, I also want to thank the blacksmith Han Yu. Myung Yu, your right to raise the microphone to continue speaking. Everything is indeed thanks to the Hunter Han Yu's Guild. Han Yu has helped me a lot in acquiring this skill, but above all, the term gratitude is still not enough to describe what Han Yu has done for me. When Han Yu's name was mentioned, Yu was shocked, blushing, and quickly hiding their face when all eyes were on them. Yu's embarrassed look amused Han, as it turned out Yu didn't realize what they meant to them. Instead of abandoning Yui, they saw Yui as someone they must protect, a member of the family, someone important in their lives more than anyone else. If anyone intended to harm Yui, they'd express gratitude on television and declared not to touch their Yui. Since that debut event, the days afterward have been quite calm, with tighter security. While Myung Yu buried themselves in the forge alone, Yu felt a bit bored. Another issue was peace. It seemed drained of energy, not as lively as before, not interested in anything, not even going out to play. Yu was worried, not understanding why Peace behaved that way. Since the abduction, Peace seemed visibly shaken, perhaps still afraid. Yu comforted and held Peace close, then took them outside. Today, Yu was assigned a female bodyguard named Kang So-rang, an air-raid hunter. She was invited by the leader of the Jupiter Guild from the United States, personally invited for her outstanding talents. Though only 19 years old, more importantly, she would become Yui's sister-in-law in the future. Yu was surprised and asked what Kang meant by her hope. Kang shared a secret with Yui. She had an SSS-level skill named dragon riding. Yu was surprised by this information. Dragons were the hardest creatures to tame, so owning a high-level mount suitable for an rank hunter like a dragon was impossible. But if Kang could control such a mount, conquering the dungeon would be easier. However, Kang expressed frustration as she couldn't use her skill. That's why she relied on Yu's abilities. In the Jupiter dungeon managed by Jupiter, occasionally dragon caves would appear. If they could hatch an egg, Yu would finally have a dragon. This prospect excited Yu. Therefore, Yu would protect Kang as best as they could because she would be the one raising Yu's dragon. Fortunately, Yu was safe. Yu is the only hope for me, and Yu surprised. Yu asked what Kang meant by that. Kang explained that everyone said so, and after a few times of saying it, it became famous. It turned out that the guild leader, Breaker, spread rumors, making everyone see Yui as their foster parent. This was probably payback for the incident on television before. Arriving at the training room, even though Yin tried, Peace remained lying down, lacking enthusiasm, just yawning like a sleepy kitten. Peace preferred to cuddle with Yui and be carried. Perhaps the abduction had deeply affected its tiny soul, so it would take a while to recover. Yu still tried to play with Peace, but it only clung to Yu. Whatever Yu wanted to do, Peace followed. Yu wanted to take Peace outside for a walk to change the scenery, but Yu couldn't take the dungeon creature out randomly. Then So-rang suddenly suggested, "I know a great place. Let me take you there." Yu happily agreed, and So-rang called her guild leader, who promptly arrived. Hearing they had to go to the Jupiter Guild, Yu hesitated but eventually agreed. The setup was done. "Okay, I'll send a driver to pick you up anytime. We need to prepare carefully for this special guest." Seeing his relaxed demeanor, Yu wondered what he was planning when meeting her. Yu was taken to the rooftop garden of the Jupiter Guild, which indeed had a stunning view. It was unbelievable that a building's rooftop could be transformed into such an eco-friendly park. Yu couldn't help but continuously praise its beauty. The female bodyguard explained that today only Yuen was allowed to use this place, so feel free to let Peace play around. Naturally, being in such a serene atmosphere with beautiful scenery lifted Peace's mood a bit. Yujin's reassuring gestures and caring words made Peace feel safe and cared for. She assured him that it was safe here and that she was also a good person. So there was nothing to worry about, just show your friendliness. The female bodyguard leaned close to Yujin, speaking intimately. Yujin was startled and quickly pulled back, exclaiming, "Oh my, you can't do that, sister-in-law. Why would she do that?" Perhaps because she's a foreigner, she finds it normal to be cautious and maintain distance to avoid disrupting Abyss's future. Yujin's sincere concern, not only from Yujin but also from the spirited bodyguard, truly restored Peace's spirit. It no longer felt as restless as before. It began to wander and explore this elevated garden area, and the mischief began again. Just like in the old days, Surely, this garden would also be destroyed soon. Its destructive nature pleased the bodyguard to see peace full of energy, while Yoon's father only thought about the financial burden. Luckily, the bodyguard informed them they could replant and restore anytime. She hoped her pet dragon could also play with peace in the future. Intrigued, Yoojin asked about the dragon she was about to own. The bodyguard enthusiastically described the dragon she would soon own. It's a third-tier flying dragon with sharp black wings, dark-colored skin, very tough on its wings and head, and it also has big sharp horns. Its whole body exudes a majestic aura. Oh, just hearing the description makes it adorable. It even has venom, making it more charming, said Yoojin, noticing her sparkling eyes when she talked about her dragon, making Yoon sweat a little due to this somewhat peculiar taste in such a serene and romantic atmosphere. Yoon felt much more relaxed and comfortable now. It had been so long since he could walk like this. Before returning to the past, he never had the leisure time for this. Now, his outings were no longer as enjoyable. Perhaps retreating here would be a good thing. It seems Peace also liked this place a lot. She even plucked flowers to give to Yoon. Yoon thought their club president wouldn't show up anyway. Then, the danger detection warning activated, reminding him that Tao Zhao was here. Yoon grimaced, knowing the visitor was the president of Jupiter Club, handsome, tall, rich, and influential, even beyond national borders. His identity had always been a mystery. He always topped the global hunter rankings. He might be the strongest hunter in the world. And now, that person was sitting in front of him, enjoying tea in such a picturesque setting. Watching him brew tea with such grace, Yoon thought, he seems to be good at everything, calm and composed, coupled with his handsome appearance truly mesmerizes people. However, Sung Zhao seemed very relaxed, but Yoon still felt pressured and not quite at ease. He handed Yoon an object and told him to give it to Peace. It was a dragon wing bone. Seeing it, Peace reacted strongly, embracing it with satisfaction. Seeing Peace happy made Yoon look at the president differently. He seems better than I thought, Yoon thought. It makes me feel more comfortable. He started eating the pastries continuously to avoid being tempted. Reading his mind, Sung Zhao joked, "You're healthy, aren't you? That's good to hear. I heard you were kidnapped." Yoon replied hesitantly, Yeah. Why didn't you need to come see me?" Sung Zhao laughed amiably. "Of course, I had to come see you. You'll be raising my little beast, after all." Hearing this familiar phrase, Yoon gritted his teeth, silently vowing to make him pay for this. Sung Zhao, cutting straight to the point, said, "I'm not saying this for fun. You currently have the skills to tame beasts, and you're the protector of Grade S Hunter, and you're the only one in the world trained by the only hunter instructor in the world. Now it's hard for anyone to match you. Thanks to our club's stupidity, other clubs are going crazy not being able to talk to you. Now, whether you ask for it or not, they'll all comply, so you don't have to be humble anymore. Whatever you want, everyone will be ready to meet your demands. Do you want to try?" Hearing those words, Yoon could guess the deep intentions of this guy. It seemed like he wanted to play mind games to make Yoon stand up and establish another club for convenience. Touched by Yoojin's forced reply, he said, "Well, this is a bit too much. I'm just a weak horse person, so I'm very worried about my sister-in-law when I do things I want." Sung Zhao calmly said, "That's easy. Just have a high-level beast by your side, and everything's settled. That's why we're discussing the use of a high-level beast second." Yoon's protective demeanor feigned surprise as he asked calm, "Is that so, huh?" Jet, equally surprised, questioned back, "Oh really? Your brother didn't say anything, so how am I supposed to compensate? Consider it payment to fulfill responsibility in the kidnapping case. Think of it as them facing consequences. Even if your brother didn't inform you, I know he'll fiercely defend you." Yoon seemed intrigued while Hong appeared uneasy. "Oh dear, I hope I'm not speaking Hun's language here," he said, outwardly calm but inwardly pondering the depth of Hun's words, which made Yoon pause. Hun didn't disclose anything to Yoon about the abduction, and even when Yoon asked about it, his brother only nodded. Yoon contemplated. "If time doesn't rewind, and I only have my taming skills, you'll probably be caught again. Living a dull life with no clue." Jay continues to mock. "I really can't understand it. Yu has recently been asserting his power, aiming to establish an organization on par with other top factions. Indeed, he seems intent on dividing them. He even mentioned constructing an organization with a pre-negotiated deal. If he keeps expanding, he might even possess a monstrous army. How would you respond to that? A team of monsters? I think having too many might not be legal, Jay added. The more he speaks, the more his ambition shines through. Yes, he's right now the issue, but laws only exist with a state and society. Currently, we can manage the dungeon and maintain social order, as you know. The quantity and difficulty of the dungeon keep increasing. It won't be long until... Pause. I think within 5 years, everything will change completely. By then, we'll crave additional forces, be it mounts or anything else. And in that scenario, you won't be like anyone else. Someone who can nurture S-rank monsters and a reliable assistant. Han knew this, yet he deliberately concealed it from him. I think you two should talk. Han suggested, his smiling face hiding his inscrutable depths, making Yun struggle to confront him. What's his game? Yun wondered. He acts like he's helping, but in reality, it's condescension, like he's testing me. At the Abyss faction, there's a meeting between Yun and Yim. She seems to have an issue that's hard to articulate. Last time when she used the white elephant in the faction member's image, I heard them discussing the ineffective sleeping pills they used. Could it be that her uncle has an antidote? It's strange. I'm sure her uncle doesn't have such an item. I feel like her uncle is hiding something, a secret of Han's. It seems like he's gradually being discovered. Back to Yun, he was informed of a stronger A-class escort taking him back to Abyss. And of course, who else would be in A-class besides his father? He's excited while I just find it hard dealing with this guy. There's nothing for me to do, just an S-rank hunter. They only do what they want, even buying flowers and gifts for me. Yun wanted to decline. I appreciate the gesture. But even if he does, he won't gain any more favorable terms. Suddenly, Jip pointed his hand towards Yun with tremendous pressure, making Yun feel rare intimidation. But in reality, he just wants to secure him, or maybe he's testing Yun. His actions, though seemingly normal, seem to imply something that makes Yun slightly apprehensive. On the way, the two continued discussing the decay within MKC's internal structure. Yujin's faction will collapse, but maybe it will collapse faster than expected. You know, Yujin glanced at Hong subtly. I really don't know much about this handsome, wealthy, and skilled guy. Even his past before he woke up, it's a mystery. Because he has blonde hair and fair skin, there have been rumors that he's foreign or mixed race. Besides that, there's no information about him. Yujin contemplated whether to use his skill to observe Hanj or not. He wanted to see the status window of the world's strongest, but just as he was preparing to activate his skill, unexpectedly, an immense pressure pressed down on his hand placed on his neck by Hanj, freezing Yujin in place, unable to move. Yujin muttered to himself, "What on earth is happening? If he exerted just a little more force, I'd be done for." But quickly, Yun's fear dissipated as his resilience against fear kicked in. Damn, how did he find out? Yun thought. I haven't even activated my skills yet. Calmly, Yun spoke up, his voice slightly mocking. Oh, I thought you were my bodyguard, but it seems you're imitating MKC instead. Han Yujin's words left Yun speechless, but internally he cursed the handsome man before him. What are you saying? We haven't done anything wrong. Han Yujin retorted, leaving Yun dumbfounded. Yun could only silently curse the handsome troublemaker. Outside the Abyss Assembly building, Simi and Sung Han were waiting to welcome Yujin back. Seeing their serious expressions, something seemed amiss. However, Han Je stepped out of the car with a cheerful greeting, offering to open the door for Yujin. As soon as the door was opened, Yujin darted out like a released bird, heading towards Sim Young and Sung Han. Their expressions clearly showed they weren't keen on welcoming this handsome fellow. Nonetheless, Han Je remained composed, presenting flowers and a gift to Yujin. Sim Dong intervened with a serious tone, asking why he had come without prior notice. Despite Sim Young's unwelcoming words, Han Je maintained his calm demeanor. Don't worry, I promise to ensure your safety, he said. I want to give you these flowers and this gift, a pair of earrings that will enhance your magical power and provide level B shielding equipment. It's a precious and valuable gift. Yujin was somewhat surprised by this gesture. As he tried on the earrings, they seemed perfect. Now it was time to test the shielding and teleportation skills. He called out to Piss, who rushed over, and there was a collision between Piss and the shield, demonstrating its effectiveness. Yujin chuckled at Piss's dismayed expression. "You've been running around a lot today," he said, patting Piss's head. "Now it's time to take a bath. I'm glad you're back to normal, and thanks for the great equipment. This trip has been quite fruitful, but I don't want to go back there again." After Han Jae left, Sim Young mentioned the encounter between two level S hunters, hinting at some trouble. Yujin felt overwhelmed by the constant events unfolding. As he wiped Piss clean, Doc Kai returned from exploring the dungeon with a cute piece-themed outfit. Despite his good performance, all the data from Level B dungeons yielded no information. Doc Kai explained that he couldn't enter the dungeons for unknown reasons. Yujin suspected it had something to do with Doc Kai's ownership of dungeon powers. Perhaps those powers couldn't coexist within another dungeon. This sparked an idea in Yujin's mind. He hugged Doc Kai, making him uncomfortable, and then instructed him to teleport. In an instant, they were outside the building. Doc Kai continued teleporting, and Yujin realized they could potentially communicate with the system using Doc Kai's powers. "Let's teleport a few more times," he suggested. Doc Kai frowned, unable to tolerate being dragged along like this. "I feel like I'm in a wrestling match," he muttered. With that said, Doc Kai forcefully threw Yuen to the ground as if they were indeed wrestling. "Luckily, I just put on those earrings with shielding skills. Otherwise, I would have been in trouble," Yuen thought. He figured it was time for the system to send a message, so he opened the status window. Indeed, there was a slight change in the status, but it still didn't allow direct communication like in the dungeon. Reflecting on the message from the dungeon, it seemed to imply that it couldn't find him until he entered. Thus, there was nothing more he could do in his outside world. Seeing Yuen frozen, Doc Kai thought he might have overdone it and worriedly asked if he was okay. Rubbing his head, Doc Kai didn't blame him and even thanked him. "It's okay. I had something to check, and with you here, it was smooth sailing. Now, besides going back to the dungeon, there's no other option," Yuen explained. He instructed Doc Kai to return and rest, promising to call if there were any further tasks, but only if he stopped throwing temper tantrums. "You did very well today, my adorable Yuen," he teased. This time, Yuen's actions didn't faze him anymore, and Doc Kai couldn't help but be reminded of his old landlord. Ultimately, the next day, Yuen received a notification on his phone at the dormitory. He had won the bid for the exclusive opportunity to advance into the pressure-induced dungeon. It turned out Yuen had secretly planned to venture into the dungeon alone this time, intending to reconnect with the previous conversation. To avoid being detected, you've equipped yourself with clothes and obscured your face. It's no different from a ninja infiltrating the Fuin dungeon, needing to navigate through Abyss's strict surveillance. You somersault, crawl, and hide, resembling a professional commando. With lizard-like skills, you effortlessly traverse walls, avoiding elevators using stealth techniques. You wait for someone to enter the elevator before following, to avoid suspicion. Exploiting Breaky's skills, you blend in effortlessly, benefiting from its quadrupled ability due to the last-minute emotional plea and Lodshita's enemy detection skill, making you nearly undetectable, even at the SD level. Thanks to this, you reach entry points without hindrance. Next is the challenging checkpoint with another security scan. Seizing an opportunity when someone is waiting for a check, you swiftly pass through the scanner, triggering an alert. Pity for the unsuspecting youth who'll face a stricter check, while you, benefiting from Breaky's abilities, swiftly evade. Utilizing the last few days before Breaky's power fades, after 7 challenging days, you finally reach the exterior of a warehouse, within which lies the coerced dungeon. Being a low-level dungeon, it's less observed, allowing you to proceed unhindered. You need to enter and quickly establish contact with the system before disappearing again to ensure safety. Along with necessary items, you carry a teleportation stone. If danger arises, it can aid your escape, a precaution given by Yu Haiyan to counter unforeseen threats. All preparations completed, you enter the dungeon, promising yourself to only fulfill this task and then live discreetly. Inside, the coerced dungeon is not as desolate and perilous as higher-level ones. Instead, it's a vast, lush forest, albeit within the dungeon's confines. However, inherent dangers persist, so you cautiously maneuver through large branches, scanning for signs of the system. Unbeknownst to you, shadows lurk above, a pack of monkey-like creatures, numbering in the hundreds, slowly encircles you. Caught off guard, you remain vigilant, moving slowly. Before you realize, they closed in, waiting for you to drop your guard. They commence a coordinated assault, but against low-level dungeon monsters, you with quadrupled stats akin to a level C monster, swiftly incapacitate them with stealth and efficiency. Not bothering to look back, you continue forward. As you clear your path, the teleportation system constantly rings, seeking your attention. Annoyed by the interruption, you swiftly deal with the creatures, discarding them. Standing atop a small hill of defeated foes, you demand answers from the system, frustrated by its delayed response. Finally, a window appears with a cryptic message. Not my fault. Perplexed, another window materializes, displaying the teleportation stone you previously used. Still puzzled, you await clarification. Finally, an explanation appears, stating that the wish-granting stone cannot revive the dead but can offer apologies in their place. Confused by this sudden apology, you feel a pang of despair. Upon realizing the deception, you confront the system, angry at being missiled. However, the system responds cryptically, refusing to offer a clear explanation. Frustrated, you brandish the teleportation stone, challenging it. Look closely, you wretched system. Even if there are high-level monsters like last time, I can handle them just fine. Speak whatever you want, but instead of a response, there's a silent and eerie atmosphere as if nothing is happening. But then, a series of message windows keep popping up. Don't be angry, we know you're frustrated. We want to tell you everything, but we need a proper medium for our next direct conversation. We need to prepare thoroughly, as too much interference could lead to quick detection. If too much information is revealed, it could be dangerous. Prepare well. See you in a week. Then the system doesn't provide any more information. Its implication is to meet again after thorough preparation. Exactly 1 week later. This is what worries Ewan, as the last emotional plea will no longer be effective then. So Ewan must find another way. Ewan ponders over the system's messages, considering the potential dangers or being discovered. Maybe there's something dangerous beyond the system. Could it be that the appearance of monsters coinciding with the messages means that more intervention via messages leads to more danger? Lost in thought, Ewan suddenly notices cracks appearing in space, growing larger and spreading. Perhaps a powerful monster is about to emerge. The cracks burst open, accompanied by a blinding light. Ewan anxiously observes the gaping hole in space, torn wide open. It seems like this time an even scarier monster is appearing. A terrifying beam of light pierces through space in front of Ewan. Oh my goodness, could this creature be even stronger than Letus? Ewan stands frozen, with a stone in hand, ready to teleport away if danger approaches. But as the light gradually fades, something appears on the ground. It looks like a lump of cotton. Ewan, drenched in sweat, silently thinks, "What in the world is this? A mochi ball." A few seconds later, that mochi ball starts to move. It has eyes, a beak, 2 wings, and tiny legs. It looks no different from a chicken. Just when it seemed like Ewan encountered some terrifying creature, luck strikes, and a cute round chicken appears, looking as innocent as a mochi cake. But still cautious, Ewan activates the seedling promise to observe. This chicken seems nothing special besides its adorable appearance. It's just a plain, ordinary chicken, wandering around as if hungry, searching for food. It stands before a mana stone with poison. It pecks at it, intending to eat it, but Ewan rushes out from hiding to save it from poisoning. The chicken, safe in Ewan's hands, snuggles and cries, oblivious to the danger it narrowly avoided. While Ewan is busy with the chicken, a monkey sneaks up behind. Since when did it attack? It strikes swiftly, but Ewan manages to dodge and dispatch it, looking up to see hundreds of fiery eyes. There seem to be even more monkeys this time. They must have multiplied generations. With care, Ewan comforts the chicken. "Don't cry anymore, I'll quickly find food for you." And then, after the 18+ scene, only the boss monster's corpse lies piled up. Ewan cleans up the dungeon without breaking a sweat. As Ewan slays the monsters, the mana crystal shards fall, and the tiny chicken immediately devours them. Its voracious appetite is astonishing. It's hard to tell if it's a chicken or a pig. There's still a large mana crystal left. Ewan contemplates, perhaps intending to share, but then decides against it. Ewan starts to feel a bit wary of this tiny chicken. It's so bold despite its small size. Ewan questions, Are you really planning to eat that? Then the system announces an achievement. By utilizing pressure stats, attack skills, and fewer than 3 items, you have successfully cleared the dungeon alone. You've been awarded the title of Rookie Extraordinaire. Yuen is quite surprised and wonders, so this is the reward for clearing the dungeon alone. Even more surprising is that Yuen achieved an S-rank title despite the dungeon being so low level. It's remarkable to receive such a high-ranking title with just ordinary skills, doubling all dungeon rewards. Yuen is both excited and disappointed. Excited for the doubled rewards, but disappointed because the low-level dungeon means the rewards aren't that great. While Yuen is busy sorting through the loot, the chicken has already finished devouring the remaining mana crystal, showing its insatiable appetite. Yuen feels a bit overwhelmed by this greedy little chicken. Unsure if it's a chicken or a pig, Yuen finally decides to investigate further. Returning home safely, Yuen faces another issue. Patch and the chicken don't get along. Patch gets furious and starts wrecking things upon seeing another pet. Though it's not edible, Patch continuously attacks the poor chicken. Despite Yuen's attempts to explain that the chicken is its sibling, not food, Patch refuses to listen and continues causing chaos. In the midst of this, Yuen's younger brother suddenly appears and asks what's going on. Startled, Yuen drops the chicken. Even though it's just a chicken, it looks different from usual. Yuen explains that it's a monster, which startles his younger brother. Yuen quickly explains that he found it abandoned and took it home out of pity, which seems like a reasonable explanation. Yuen's brother doesn't press further. Today, he came to see his brother for something, but before he can speak, Yuen asks for help controlling Patch, who's causing chaos because of the presence of the chicken. Ignoring Yuen's plea, Patch flies over to the chicken while Yuen's brother, Han, is explaining his reason for being there. Despite Han's seriousness, Yuen and Patch continue to cause a commotion, paying no attention to him. Growing frustrated, Han grabs Patch by the neck and throws him aside, then calmly says, "Now, let's talk. I hope this helps. Let me know if you need further assistance." Yuen's face turned green with worry for P. "What's the matter after I said that?" she asked. "Who do you think you are to throw him away like that?" Actually, Yujin guessed Han's intention and wanted to ask him about something related to him during the time he was kidnapped. Yujin knew that Han had discovered something, so he pretended to be strict by borrowing the incident of peace being thrown away to preach. "My brother thought Yujin was really strict." Han tried to explain, but Yujin became even more adamant. "Don't say anything, just sit down," she said. It turns out that when Yuen gets angry, it's quite scary. Both Han and Piss sat down on the sofa obediently. Yujin began to preach about how owners should treat their mounts. Yujin wanted Han to treat Peace as a family member, not just as equipment. Every time Yujin asked, my brother innocently answered, which made Han even more obedient, like a dog. After a while looking at Han's clueless face, Yujin guessed that he probably didn't understand anything because Han's nature had been like that since he was a child. He hardly cares about others or the things around him. Yuen sighed after the preaching, feeling exhausted. "All right, let's hug each other," she said. Du Haiyan stood up, extending his arms, waiting for a hug from his older brother. Yuen felt annoyed because it wasn't him, but Piss, who was there. Nevertheless, the two masters embraced each other with affection. Just by looking, one could see the peace and happiness. After the preaching, Poch also changed. He was no longer aggressive towards the chicks, but became friendly. Perhaps he was afraid of being abandoned when there were other animals around. The two became closer to each other. Yuen then asked Han if he was free next week. "Let's go to the dungeon together. I'll see how your skills are," she said. "By the way, I'll bring Peace and the chicks along so that they can bond more," Han replied, but his answer was somewhat difficult. He wasn't as simple and naive as he seemed. He knew Yujin was trying to use a flimsy reason to preach so that he couldn't ask. Han wanted to know what his older brother was trying to hide. In the following days, he continued to sneak out into the dungeon twice alone. He cleaned the Class E cave, and now it's a Class D water environment cave. Every time, that dungeon system greeted Yuen. As for rewards, due to the doubled skill bonus, Yuen received many items. Not only that, she also received additional Class S titles like Veteran Hunter, which doubled her attack skill. Yuen cursed the system for giving her such useless titles. Why would she need any attack skills? Eventually, she received a title that allowed her to remain undetected after cleaning a Class D dungeon. She also acquired 2 new skills, an A-class skill for camouflage and another skill, with a silly name, that allowed sharing effects of S-class skills or titles with someone else you've made contact with. These new skills made Yuen puzzled about how to use them properly. She mentioned the chicks, which she gave the cute name People. It had many strange points. It wasn't affected by taming skills, and its development status couldn't be checked by her skills. Nevertheless, it seemed to be affected by keywords, and now it was more friendly with peace and no longer acted disobediently. Yuen seized every moment for the two of them to play and take pictures together as memories. She also created a social media account, which quickly gained followers due to Piss's fame and the cuteness of the two. In no time, they became top idols. With that, she could freely sell goods or become a food critic. Speaking of tanning, it was exclusively for Yujin. It was being rushed to completion, with the estimated time shortened to 2 weeks. Yuen was also busy preparing to move to a new place where her close non-combat companions, Mian-Yu and Han, would also join her to work. Afterwards, all the animals would be taken care of and trained by Yuen. Seeing her dream of just lying down and enjoying life getting further away made Yujin frustrated. But there was something even more important. That was meeting the system in the next few days. Yujin felt this was troublesome. It didn't harm him, but he also didn't know what had happened before the time reversal. Yujin had thought about it a lot, but ultimately found no clue. So meeting the system next time was crucial. Yujin didn't know that a huge trouble was looming over him in the upcoming dungeon exploration. His life would be threatened, and the one causing it would be none other than Yu Lion. This outcome was because he hadn't been honest with his younger brother. A few days later, before going to the dungeon together, Yujin's home had prepared a lavish meal. Of course, the skilled chef was Mian-Yu. You certainly have the qualities of a homemaker, Duen. You rolled up your sleeves and pitched in by making the most difficult dish, egg omelets, for a lavish dinner. The table was set, but there seemed to be something off in the atmosphere. Everyone was eating and chatting cheerfully, yet there was a sense of discomfort underlying the smiles. It seemed as if something was amiss, and the main reason was this guy here. While everyone else was cheerful, his face was as solemn as if he'd lost his rice bowl. The table was full of delicious dishes, yet he only chose the omelets. This choice cast a shadow over the feast, making the air heavy with tension, as if an apocalypse was looming. Eventually, Duen couldn't bear it anymore and had to speak up. "Hey, don't do that. If the atmosphere is tense, don't be the odd one out," he said, naively revealing that they were about to leave. Duen had to let him know that he agreed to go with him, despite being advised against it. So the three of them got into a heated discussion about the new center they were building, from research rooms to forges and even dungeons. The more Han tried to befriend Duen, the more Duen withdrew, worsening Han's mood. His dark aura seemed to emanate a desire to smash something immediately. Finally, the meal ended without any mishaps, though not as joyous as it could have been. Doing the dishes together, Jin and Jim were bored inside, not knowing what was going on with Han lately, as his mood resembled that of a sisterhood on this particular day. Both guessed it was because Jujin was moving out soon, leaving Han feeling bitter. While talking, Jim intended to ask what he was hiding, but couldn't bring himself to. So he shifted the conversation. Perhaps Han was upset because security at the entrance had been increased after his abduction, but it broke down for 4 days straight, which probably annoyed him. Hearing this, Duen's blood boiled. He suspected that Han was responsible for the malfunction of those security devices. Taking advantage of someone passing by after today's meal, Jujin still felt guilty and texted to ask if he was free next week. If busy, he would go to the dungeon with Jim. Han simply replied, "No need. I have a few days." A few days later, the day to enter the dungeon arrived. Dune appeared before Han with a radiant smile and a bouquet of roses. However, his younger brother's attitude remained unchanged, still cold and indifferent. Even when handed the flowers, he showed no expression and handed them straight to the guard at the entrance. The tension persisted, making Dune very anxious. He still didn't understand why Han behaved like that. These days, he had been thinking that there should be a serious conversation between the two brothers. Eventually, they both entered the dungeon. It was a dungeon with picturesque scenery, with majestic mountains and a breathtaking ocean, Except for the danger, it was beautiful, like a resort. While Hun was vigilant, Jujin was talking to Peace to get used to the atmosphere inside the dungeon. Not long after, the monsters attacked, and Peace was targeted for the first time. Although there was no sign of worry or fear, it charged straight into battle. The yellow-furred ape monsters were no match for it. Both Jujin and Hun didn't intervene but let Peace act freely. Although still young, its strength was undeniable. With the blood of higher-level monsters flowing in its veins, it effortlessly tore through the lower-level monsters. Hun told Duin, "You also need to level up." Hun coldly turned away, leaving Duin puzzled. Jujin reluctantly followed behind, not knowing when this anger would end. On the way, as the monsters attacked Jujin, he was ready to fight. Doom wanted to take down the monsters himself, as he always did, but before he could act, Hun coldly dispatched those monsters. Leading the way with a bewildered look from Jujin, Hun didn't want Jujin to exert himself, using his wood willow leaf skill to restrain him. By now, Jujin couldn't bear it anymore and snapped. "Why do you keep interfering, Hun? You still maintain that cold attitude even when I respond. I'm just trying to help you. It's very dangerous, Hun." The demon spawn has no resistance towards Jujin. You need to end it before things get worse. Jujin asked directly, "Do you think I didn't know? Do you have a problem with me?" Your expression says it all. If you're annoyed about something, just say it outright. You've been avoiding direct confrontation since the beginning, making it unclear what your intentions are. That's why we, as brothers, end up in heated arguments. Jujin pointed directly at Hun and said loudly, "And what about you? You don't even bother to speak up. You've been causing trouble everywhere, never letting me know anything important. Instead, you just keep silent and take the blame." But Hun's demeanor remains cold and indifferent. Hun swung his spear at the demon spawn, attacking Jujin from behind, then retorted, "That's to protect you, to enhance your influence. But now your foundation is too big. You know, interfering in your affairs like this is excessive. But I admit, it's beyond my capabilities. I do it because I feel uncomfortable." Jujin retorted, "Hun, you don't need to protect me so much. With your current influence, no leader can easily lay a hand on you. But you keep saying that you're concerned, making me truly puzzled. I don't know what our little brother intends or what he's hinting at." Before Jujin could respond, Hun asked him, "Can you be satisfied with what you have? Don't go anywhere, and don't do anything. I'll do everything you need. I won't ask anything from you. So you should do the same. At least, don't go to the dungeon anymore." Hun's tone was very serious as he spoke. Jujin sensed the seriousness of the conversation but still couldn't figure out why Hun was being like this. Before anything could be resolved, a message appeared in the system, ready to chat. As soon as the message appeared, Jujin's body began to dissolve, disappearing in front of Hun's eyes. Hun looked at his suddenly missing younger brother. His eyes were icy but filled with worry and anger. "Hey, this time, to find my younger brother, I might have to burn down this entire dungeon," he exclaimed. Meanwhile, after disappearing inside the dungeon, Jujin found himself in another space with nothing but greenish lights. After a while, strange windows appeared, shaped like faces, talking to him. "Hello, darling. There's more than just that face," said one, followed by more faces of various colors. They kept calling him darling, which annoyed Jujin. "Don't call me darling, my name is Han," he retorted, but before he could finish, a symbol covered his mouth, reminding him not to reveal his real name. It was important information that needed to be kept secret. If too much information leaked, the connection between the system and him would break. So he had to hide it to keep them from knowing who he was and what danger he might pose. Curiously, Jujin asked them who they were. All the faces responded in unison, the one who was not allowed to say their name. After some meaningless chatter, Jujin got serious. "Let's get to the point. My little brother is still waiting. How do you know about events that happened before the time reversal? And why is it a problem?" The system replied, "From now on, very important events will unfold. Let's start with a simple explanation. Time only reverses for you. Let's use a tree as an example. If the tree in front of you represents your world and every wish stone activated only affects your reality, then your world will go back 5 years. But for those outside, everything remains the same, including the number and difficulty of dungeons. So the dungeons now have increased difficulty and quantity only for you. We're trying to slow down that process, but they're also exerting their influence through the dungeons. So there's something you need to do. Use the keyword to awaken 50 emergency pseudo-S-class influencers and impact them only when you complete it. Can you protect your world? About the status window with the book icon. Well, we tried to create something to fit your world. So the new system is similar to the status window in games. Even planned to create a place like a shrine in Heroes. But when people get used to these things, they all disappear, just like beginner guides. Convenient at first, but then restricting. It's like locking them in a tight box, as if no matter how hard one tries, it's difficult for a person to develop under coercion. However, there are those who truly break stereotypes and escape the box. Nothing is forever, including attributes or skills. Humans must always adapt. Listening to this, what comes to mind is to change keywords, but we've assigned you a task. So don't use that deadly keyword. What about influencing 50 people? You tell me to express love to 50 people. What kind of weird game is this? The system explains it's not about them. They're just checking skills and adding descriptions. Even if you're not satisfied with the descriptions, we didn't use keywords like that. It's too detailed, even about materials or elements. Then all instructions are too detailed. Another person in the system said those skills are stored from the previous world. You also know there are other worlds. The goldsmith's forge was created in another world and transferred to yours. There are very few cases where something is transferred to another world. And that's because the previous owner of the goldsmith's skills sacrificed themselves for the future of others. So we just recorded based on available information, like classifying new animals based on existing ones. It may not be accurate, but we have no right to change keywords. And this is the first time the perfect nanny skill has been created, so we don't have enough information. We can only predict more. The nanny title alone is already rare. You can only own it if you have the innate S-rank awakening. Talking about S-rank innate is extremely rare. Most pseudo-S-rank awakenings have awakening levels from A to S, depending on the environment they can awaken in, but very rarely someone is born with only S-rank. It's so rare that only those who are truly superior to their race can possess it. But no matter how outstanding they are, they always find it difficult to integrate with their race. So even ordinary people, even parents, feel uncomfortable around them. That's why the nanny title you own is very different from what the system said. It never felt difficult for its little brother. The system continues to explain the nanny's life is quite short. Sometimes they become targets in the natural habitat of the innate S-rank, or it could be because of the difference in power that the love of the innate S-rank can turn into hatred. Finally, the system says you have to complete the task of gathering 50 pseudo-S-rank awakenings within 5 years. After that, they will handle it. It seems like the time limit for contact has arrived. The system is slowly disappearing. I asked if it could let my little brother know everything, but the system replied that it's impossible. Only Hun can know that you're helping the system. Other things must absolutely be kept secret. Duchin still has many questions and doubts, but time does not permit. The system also informs you that whether you want it or not, gradually you will come to know everything. It's just not the right time yet. The space has become ethereal or vanished. Dujin has returned to the real world, chilly and safe. You hastily sit up, not seeing Yu Haiyan anywhere. The dungeon, forest, and sea are no longer around. All that surrounds you is a desolate scene with various sized fruits and violet flames indicating that Yu Haiyan is the one responsible. Suddenly, Dujin feels a chill. The once vibrant green dungeon has now turned into a dead land, caused by Yu Haiyan. Dujin thought he had been mistakenly taken to the wrong dungeon, still bewildered and unaware of what has happened. Then, from behind, there are the peculiar footsteps of a beast approaching rapidly. Dujin turns around to see a towering fire mage charging towards him. Despite being startled, Dujin manages to swiftly dodge its claws thanks to his fear-resistant skill. However, the danger is far from over. Dujin is now facing a formidable monster, seemingly with no chance of escape. What startles Dujin even more is that upon using his observational skill, he realizes that this fire mage is none other than Piss. But why is it so large and mature? Could it be that while Dujin conversed with the system in the space, many years had passed outside? Before I can understand anything, a hand from behind embraced Dujin's chest. then lifted him onto the shoulder and carried him away. That was Do-hun's hug. But he remained silent, not saying anything, just acting sluggishly. This made Do-hun feel somewhat scared. He glanced back at the dungeon once again. This once lush green land now only remained as ruins. The ominous atmosphere filled with death made Do-rin shiver as he advanced into the dungeon. This is all because of you, huh? Hun still didn't respond, just carrying Do-hun away. Is it because of what I burned down here? Hun still didn't reply, just carrying Do-hun away, feeling awkward. Do-hun quickly interrupted, trying to calm down. Let's talk peacefully. You can put me down now. Hun coldly responded. Do you think you can calm down at this hour? Do-hun promised to explain everything Hun requested. Just calm down, let me down, and I'll explain everything. But the more Do-hun spoke, the worse the situation became. Hun growled back. I don't need you to be silent. If you don't shut up, I'll shut you up myself. Do you really want to see me go crazy? Hun's eyes were full of anger, but they also contained a mix of worry and helplessness. No matter what Do-hun said, Hun didn't want to hear anything more. Hun snapped angrily, shut up and leave. I thought I just needed to wait a bit because you said you would take care of everything. I thought I could sit still and stop worrying about you. But now, Hun's voice choked, unable to continue. His hand tightened around Jujin's arm, then forcefully threw him to the ground. It seems like you have no other choice, Hun said coldly, drawing his sword near Jujin's neck. His cold gaze mixed with helplessness. Perhaps the disappearance of Jujin had broken his tolerance limit, just as the S-level system had warned. The good intentions of his protector could be seen as self-inflicted violence. It was just a fragile line. And now Do-hun was falling into that extreme state. Hun coldly pressed the sword against his brother's neck. I can't bear it anymore. I have to kill you here. If I let you live, who knows what other strange things will happen? I will tell everyone that you were killed by the dungeon boss. Some may not believe that you couldn't protect yourself in this dungeon level. But as long as I bring your hand or foot back as evidence, it'll be fine. It might hurt, but from now on, I'll be able to protect you. Do-hun felt a cold chill running down his spine. Even in his dreams, he never thought that such terrifying words would come from his beloved younger brother, driven to such extremes by excessive love. With his brother's safety at stake, Do-hun couldn't think clearly. The feeling of helplessness overwhelmed him as he couldn't protect his brother. Deep down, Do-hun loved his brother the most and didn't want him to face danger every day. There was only one way to stop his older brother from endangering himself further. Death. Only death could keep Jujin still without wandering into danger. Hun raised the sword, ready to strike, without hesitation this time. But fortunately, the protective boundary from the earrings he received saved Do-hun's life. The sword missed his neck by a hair's breadth. Jujin yelled, "You're insane." Then, terrified, he fought. Jujin realized that Hun didn't directly kill him. Otherwise, he would have become a fallen hero without his left hand. Do-hun didn't stand still, allowing his younger brother to do whatever he wanted. He released some attacks to buy time to talk. If you protect me so extremely, I won't even look at you anymore. Hun finally took his decision seriously, deflecting Do-hun's attack while expressing his frustration. I won't look at you anymore, huh? Anyway, I never intended to stay by your side. From the beginning, I hid everything from you. When Hun grabbed Jujin's collar, he had no choice but to use his master's stone to order Pies to quickly stop him. The command was issued. Piss lunged at its jaws and bit hard into Hun's arm. He gritted his teeth against the pain, his English accent tinged with coldness. I thought you could stop me, but with the strength of a grade B monster, stopping Hun, one of the world's top hunters, is nearly impossible. Hun countered, striking Piss's head with the hilt of his sword, then spun around, swinging his arm to forcefully throw Piss to the ground. The impact, typical of a grade S hunter, coupled with Hun's extreme anger, immediately rendered Piss unconscious. Jujin, concerned, rushed over to intervene, but after Hun subdued Piss, he continued with his remaining task. Using one hand, he pressed Do-hun forcefully to the ground, restraining his movement, while his other hand wielded the sword, ready to strike without hesitation. But Hun remained hesitant. He couldn't bring himself to strike Do-hun. With his head bowed down, he confessed everything he had buried deep inside. I used to enjoy reconciling with you, feeling everything returned to normal. So even though you were strange, I deliberately ignored it. But what you said, is it true? Even that fire mage hesitated. Your monster taming skills are truly at level 10. If you knew how much effort it takes to tame a high-level monster, you wouldn't have chosen it. And the forge and even that bird. Let's forget about all of that. Why do you always come to the dungeon, even today? Do you know when you disappeared, I couldn't do anything. I didn't even know what was happening. I felt truly helpless. All these things you're saying, how can I endure them? Tears welled up in Hun's eyes. You truly love your little brother. You would do anything to give him a life free from danger. He wiped his tears, trembling. No matter what, I can't bring myself to harm you. So now, I just ask for one thing from you. You will permanently disappear from under the hunter's radar. Don't worry, it will be quick. I'll heal you with divine medicine. Hun gripped the sword handle tightly, preparing to take Duin's life, but hesitated when Duin's face turned pale. How much longer do we have to wait? He shouted. Suddenly, a stream of green light appeared, deflecting Hun's sword, and a communication window appeared in front of him. Hun stood bewildered, stunned by the strange phenomenon. Duin took advantage and quickly stepped back, keeping a safe distance. He realized that his older brother had regained some composure, and began to explain his taming skills in detail. He received grade S skills secretly by sneaking into the dungeon a few times. All of this was aided by the system. Currently, he was secretly assisting the person who created the system. He had intended to tell Duin about these things, but Duin's agitation prevented him from saying anything. He truly hid everything not because he didn't trust Duin. He always trusted him the most in the world. Surely, over the past few days, Duin had worried a lot for him. He also knew that Duin was very concerned about security, both in the guild and society, but not because there was a problem. He used his stealth skills. Not only that, but he also had skills to resist poison, curses, fear, and even shared skills. Hun listened for a while, speaking just enough to make Duin understand. He didn't let his younger brother know that these were level L skills, nor did he mention the influence keywords and the skill of emotional stimulation. Finally, he even recounted the time he had returned to the past 5 years ago and felt that everything was fine. Jujin turned to Hun and said that if he was curious about anything, he should just ask because what he said was truly unbelievable. A person only at grade L was being helped by the system. But Hun couldn't help but believe it after witnessing everything firsthand. Duin was quite comfortable, and if his little brother had any curiosity, he could ask about the psychological manipulation skills of Duin, which were truly top-notch. Just a few tricks with some important information had made his previously aggressive little brother obedient like a puppy. I'm sorry, I thought you didn't trust me, so I got a little agitated, Duin said, understanding that his younger brother was overly concerned about him. He gave Hun a heartfelt hug. I'm sorry for disappearing. You must have been very scared, right? The two brothers took turns apologizing and expressing their love, pinning Piss caught in the middle, displaying the affection between the two generals, which was quite boring and disheartening for Piss. Unable to bear it anymore, Peace, who no longer had his large, mature figure, intervened. You only grow larger and develop when necessary. Otherwise, even if you give orders, it won't work. In the end, the troublesome matter was resolved smoothly. If it weren't for the timely intervention of the system, Duin would have become a legendary hero. At this moment, within the system space, they are still observing all the ongoing situations. Someone feels that Jujin's younger brother is quite dangerous after what happened recently, but others believe that if he is properly nurtured, he will become an excellent guardian. Because previously, Han used his life to save Jujin once, so another person mentioned Myeon-yu, thinking that he might have more potential than Han. Yet another person said there's not enough time for Myeon-yu to develop further. Someone else in the system, dressed like a primitive human with a full body of white wolf fur, spoke up, saying if this world fails, they should take it to the next world. It seems Myeon-yu has great potential, so they want to ensure his potential doesn't end in this world. The girl with the rabbit-like appearance also spoke of Jujin, wanting to take him to another world when this one collapses. However, someone among them is sure that Jujin will refuse. Even if forced, he won't comply. They put a lot of hope in Jujin, believing he can fulfill their plans. People within the system often speak cryptically due to security concerns, but their goal remains to support Jujin to the fullest so that he can help another person in the system. Someone handed the rabbit girl a glass of wine, saying, "Isn't this good for you? You will be promoted from a rookie position." Meanwhile, they suggested decorating the room for the pet while waiting, suggesting to have some fun because the naughty child is confined back to Jujin's life since returning from the dungeon. Things have been smooth since then. Hun has returned to his cheerful self, no longer wearing a tired expression. Pak has also grown rapidly, and Jun has collected some valuable data for their research, extremely useful information that excites her greatly. She knows that having this in her hands will lead to a significant breakthrough in dungeon research, and said her uncle would build a research center. However, she worries that if any guild gets involved, her research might be exploited. That's why today she came with a proposal to build a research center next to the monster training center. Everyone could use the research results, attracting many hunters, making it easier to gather information about the dungeon. Ant was deeply moved by Jujin's practical proposals and immediately agreed, and admires how Jujin incorporates lofty ideals into his research. She should know that research for world peace deserves more respect in An's eyes. Jun has become handsome and magnificent. His noble spirit, not seeking personal gain, impresses An, and innocently doesn't know she's a trust fund for Hanjin to live comfortably for 2/3 of his remaining life, and made a proposal that she could bring her research team along with her to show Jujin a photo on her phone, which Jujin recognized as the team that discovered the laws of the dungeon. Having such a talented team, Jujin readily agreed. Both parties shook hands, and the agreement was reached. Now they just have to wait for the research center to be completed and start working. This initial investment is crucial. If the system is correct and the dungeon is growing faster, the plan to become a landlord and make money to return to Hill will soon collapse. What's needed now is to help and push forward her research and contribute financially instead of just waiting for profit from buildings. Knowing in advance which company's stock value will increase, Yuan invested all the money she had into stocks. Although these stocks may turn into smoke in the future, it's currently beneficial for speeding up the research progress. Besides, the most important thing is still to gather 50 rank Sir S-class within 5 years, which will surely pass quickly. The next day at the port, Jujin and Hun were waiting to receive a container containing 3 new monsters when they heard Jim's call.